Hi, I'm Tommy. If you're not at 216 Creator Studios, this is what it sounds like. Now, if you are at 216 Creator Studios, this is what it sounds like.
Yeah! 216creatorstudios.com.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's time to play ball again on two majors and a minor. John's missing today, but he'll be back next time. But Josh Langhoff is here.
Hello.
I'm Tim Paul, and our very special guest today is Jeremiah Paprocki, the Chicago Cubs, your Chicago Cubs public address announcer. Welcome, Jeremiah.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great having you here. It's been fun talking to you a little bit before the show. We're talking about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you've been a Cub fan actually since you came out of the womb, I understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my family have been lifelong Cubs fans too. My grandfather was a huge Cubs fan, and then passed it down to my mom and my uncle, and obviously my mom being a huge Cubs fan too, passed it down to me. So my first Cubs game that I ever attended, I was 2 months old.
Whoa.
I remember nothing of it. But since then I've frequented the ballpark as a kid and teenager and young adult, and so I spent a lot of time at Wrigley Field. So.
I bet you did. Who was your favorite ball player as a kid?
Oh man,
You got to tell us what era you were into.
Well, I have a couple. I'll go with one that might show my age, but Anthony Rizzo.
Okay.
I was as a tall kid, I kind of grew up playing first base, and so Rizzo was like that star first baseman for us, and obviously that era of 2016 was amazing. But before Rizzo, I was a huge fan of Alfonso Soriano. He used to sit in the left field bleachers, and he would always play left field. So I'd always try to, grab his attention and get a baseball thrown up my way from him. So,
and you did?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. So definitely liked Soriano. He had a lot of muscle on him and still does. If you look at most recent pictures of him, he's jacked. He's huge. But yeah, he was a great Cub when he was here, and then obviously Rizzo and that 2016 team was unforgettable. So
it truly was. Well, to show my age, my favorite first baseman was Ernie Banks.
Okay.
So that guy started. My very first Cub game, I think I was about 10 or 12. It was a Cubs White Sox exhibition game. They used to play an exhibition game in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And Ernie Banks hit a home run in that game. So
nice.
I remember first game ever saw Ernie Banks. How about you, Josh? What was your first Cub game?
This is where I have to hide under the table. Because my first game at Wrigley Field was my first game playing the organ.
Wow.
Actually. Yes. Yes. Through accident of birth and circumstance, I grew up near St. Louis. And so grew up a Cardinal fan. And so my favorite player growing up was Ozzie Smith, who would, do the backflips going out the short. But I even going to those games as a kid, I remember the organist there.
Yeah.
And my clearest memory was that one time, the opposing pitcher had been throwing to first, and then he finally threw to the batter, and the organist played the Hallelujah Chorus by Handel. And like that made sense to me as a kid, like, oh, we're commenting on the game here. And so, but yeah, 2020 was my first Cubs game at Wrigley. Now I had seen them play at Busch Stadium.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. I wouldn't have known that about you before.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a year now.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
I've shared the booth with this guy many times.
It is not something I advertise. Of course, here I am, but yeah.
I also have never asked, so that's kind of my fault too. But I just kind of assumed. That's cool.
So do you guys, what do you guys talk about during a game? What's the conversation like between the two of you during the game?
We're like,
because you're close to each other, just to set the tone so people know. Josh or John will sit behind Jeremiah.
Right. Yeah.
So we talk when we first come in.
Yeah.
Just to catch up. If depending on how long it's been since we left.
Yeah. What's been going on? That
catch up, all that good stuff. But we're both working at the same time too, and I know he has some new numbers to work on, and I have to edit the scripts and get lineups in. So I know we chat for a good maybe 5 to 10 minutes when we first walk in, and then we get to work and we work on what we have to do from our end respectively, and then during the game, I think the conversation really just flows as the game goes, depending on what's going on.
Yeah. I'll ask him how to pronounce someone's name sometimes. So
or if he plays something a song referring to a batter's name, I'll like it. I'm a big fan of Free Fallin'. So a TJ Friedel or a Tyler Freeman or a Freddie Freeman. Stuff, he'll sprinkle that in there. Like, oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And Jeremiah is very patient with listening to me like practice and cycle through all these different variations on songs while he's trying to work. Yeah. So
John does it as well too.
Yeah.
So I mean, that just when you have to share the booth with the organist, you get accustomed to it. But I enjoy hearing him practice, and he's been working on what I like to say, the United jingle.
Right.
I fly United a lot. So the song, I believe, is Rhapsody in Blue.
Rhapsody in Blue. Yeah. Jeremiah has heard like all stages of that. And if I'm going to play it in front of people, then I need to run through at least part of it during my practice time. So,
absolutely. Which I will say that number has gotten lots of compliments from many people.
Oh, good.
Because I walk around the ballpark.
Yeah.
A lot. And so a lot of my time while he or John are playing when the gates open, I like to use that time where I don't have to talk to get my steps in, but also just mingle with the Cubs fans. And so and a lot of the guest services ambassadors will say, hey, the organist playing Rhapsody in Blue, tell him he's doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
And there was one game I had just walked in and you were playing it, and I think I was eating some food, and then you had just finished playing it, and like I could hear cheers coming from like the crowd. So that's one of the fan favorites.
Well, good.
So
because it took a long time to work on. So
it's quite the number for sure. So I get it. Yeah.
Well, and the organ music obviously has a big effect, especially on Cub fans, I think. So I think you're responsible at least 30% of the wins.
But that also makes me responsible for 30% of the losses. So I don't know if I like that formulation.
Well, when you see PCA starting to run after ball, just play real fast.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I will get a look from the ump. That's
Quick question. Speaking of PCA, last Saturday, we were talking before the show started, the catch that he made in center field in the 9th inning, from you guys' perspective, you saw it from up in that booth behind the home plate. Describe what that looked like, because there's no way he catches that ball. Statcast actually said less than 10% chance of that ball being.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, like he does a lot of things that he makes look easy, right? And then you see the side-by-side comparison with someone else trying to make the same catch and failing, and you realize it's not easy. That one looked hard for him. And it was a great relief because if it had dropped, I forget was there someone on base at that point?
I honestly don't remember being there all the time. Everything becomes a blur.
Yeah.
But what I will say about PCA is PCA is fun to watch, even from our vantage point, because he is so quick. The way he tracks balls down is insane. Like there's a lot of plays where you think should belong to the shortstop on a pop fly.
Yes.
It will end up being caught by PCA just because he just runs in so quickly. Like
He does.
He's so fast, and you see it on the base paths too. I mean, he had that inside the park home run in Miami. He should have a lot more inside the park homers, but he gets to triple pretty quickly too. So he's really fast. So the ground he covers in the outfield is insane. Like the amount of times where he's so fast to get to left center or right center and will end up crashing into either Kyle Tucker or Ian Happ is a credit to his skill set as an outfielder.
Yeah.
Which is also dangerous at the same time, but he makes it work and makes it look easy. And
You definitely see Happ and Kyle Tucker doing this a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. And obviously, they're all getting used to each other in that outfield. So they're all trying to figure out, like, especially when, sometimes you're out there and you're under pressure and you forget to call it off, or you call it off quietly, and then, here comes PCA or Ian Happ. And so, but PCA's insane.
Yeah.
I think part of it too, is a credit to some of the coaching, because I think where they're positioned, they've got him within range of most of those, because they got a pretty good idea statistically where these balls are going to be hit by some of these batters.
Absolutely, yeah.
If they're in range, if PC had been playing 2 steps further away, he wouldn't have gotten to that ball.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah.
That's true, and you'll notice that too. And if you really get from a statistical standpoint, this is my production nerd showing off, but as a little feature on the video board, if you pay attention, sometimes we'll wipe stats away and show the wedge chart. And we can show the wedge chart of each batter and where they usually hit their fly outs to, or which direction the ball goes. And usually the players are well lined up in the wedge chart on the side of where they dominantly hit percentage wise. And so even though shifting isn't what shifting used to be, based off of the modern era rules of shifting, they're still well shifted into the where the ball would normally go. So
it's true.
You see the alignment pretty well, and how that all plays a factor too.
It does. It's fascinating. I love the game of baseball, obviously, but I think I love the strategy. I don't care about them speeding the game up. It's nice now that the between innings is only a couple of minutes and you get back to the action.
Yeah.
But it's the strategy part of it is I think the fun thing. Baseball's almost like a chess game.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's like chess, and then you have to have the physical prowess to pull off your move.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So you, Jeremiah, have been to, from what I just found out, every single ballpark in America.
Yes.
Plus.
Plus, exactly. Yeah. So I've been to every ballpark. I am a huge baseball fan. Even before I got this job, I've successfully achieved visiting all 30 ballparks. So I'm in the 30 for 30 club of that. So it's really cool. I mean, baseball is one of those unique sports where some of the regulations are the same, but at the same time, it's not, right? Like, yes, every base distance is 90 feet. Yes, from the pitcher's mound, it's 60.5. But you look at everything beyond that point, and that's where everything gets interesting. You look at a soccer field, it's the same. If you look at a football field, it's the same. Basketball court, it kind of widens out per level, but it's fairly the same. But baseball, once you get to the outfield, it's insane.
Different.
The play of the game is obviously to hit the ball as far as you can. So you're looking at the outfield range of baseball, and at Wrigley, we have what is known as the longest foul pole to foul pole in the game at 353 to 355. And so most parks are around 320 to 330 to the pole. So that alone is already different when you're trying to pull it that way. And you saw Ellie De La Cruz's monster shot yesterday, how he pulled that one, and that just launched over
Like this
by
much.
this much to the
Yeah.
pole.
Is that the one that they had to review?
The one that
Okay,
they
yeah.
had to review that because it obviously was so close to the pole, you couldn't really tell if it was fair or foul. But the way he had pulled it, but it also is a testament to the power too of getting it that far. And then you got some ballparks where you have Fenway and you have the pesky pole, I think is the right term for it, out in right field, and that's like it's what 289 or something, which is insane. So like that alone is crazy. But then you go to dead center there, and it's like 410 or 15.
Oh wow.
So that's like, okay, it's so unique and different, and obviously you got the Green Monster in Fenway, and then you got Wrigley with the basket on the basket on the bleachers, so you get a basket shot, and that's a home run. It's all unique. So each ballpark is so different. Where visiting each park, you get to experience the character of each team.
Sure.
And when you're at Wrigley or Fenway, they both do a good job of giving you that classic feel, how this is classic baseball. You're walking into a park, how it was intended to.
Old school.
Yeah. Whereas you go to Dodger Stadium, and now you're in a stadium, but you're also in Hollywood, so you get that Hollywood production where everything there feels like, the best directors are directing the game, right? So
it's very loud too, right?
Very loud. They do the wave.
Well, in Arizona, even, I mean, they have a freaking swimming pool.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, the top closes, you got a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Coming from the consumer's side of it, you know what I love about you is you're like about the game, and you're like, they got the nets, they got the catch.
Yeah.
That and this pole. And that. I'm the guy that sits in the stands, and I'm like, how do I get in the swimming pool? But it's totally true. But the amenities on some of these stadiums are so different. When you're going to Wrigley Field, you're going to history.
Absolutely.
It's really where you're going to that nostalgic history. And some people even they come from out of state. They go, man, I went to Wrigley Field. It was awesome. It's exactly what everybody said it was going to be, and so forth and so on. So, which is pretty cool. So we're at that time, folks. Let's ask a question, a trivia question. I have a feeling the new guy is going to get all the points today, just because he's been to every stadium.
Okay.
So here we go.
Well, let's see how it goes.
Here we go. In 1916, the Cubs played at what stadium? What was it called? Now, am I throwing out a multiple choice on this, or do you guys want to try without it?
No, I already know.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Weigman Park.
And yes, you are correct.
Yay.
Which is still technically the grounds of Wrigley Field. But,
Oh.
Yeah. Right. It was named Cubs Park from 1920 to 1926, and finally renamed Wrigley Field in 1927. So good job.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a chance today.
I think that's true.
Pretty much.
Pretty clear.
And in our food question of the day, right?
Right.
So, for our food question of the day, because I was told that we should probably talk about beef, but we're going to kick it backwards a little bit. The doghouse in 1963 is now known as
Doghouse.
Portillo's.
That is correct.
Oh, well done.
Wow.
It is Portillo's. The doghouse for Dick Portillo had a garden hose running from like a house to a shack, a trailer, basically is what it was, and that's where they got their start from. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A garden hose.
That's interesting.
Yeah, for all their water, hot dogs and whatnot. And then they were known for, the best beef in the Midwest. And we talked about beef a little bit, right?
Right, and the importance of the water.
In the importance of the water, like I said before, people ship water out of state. When they opened up a Portillo's in Arizona, they were shipping water
Wow.
from Chicago, because that obviously, I guess, makes a difference. So. Very interesting. Very
Yeah, that makes
interesting.
sense because the if you ever look at the Portillo's logo, it's a dog. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
technically, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And listen, folks, if you like what you see here today, don't forget to go to the old YouTube there on the Google box, 216 Creator Studios. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, ding that bell for future notifications. This way you do not miss an episode of the All-Star team here at Two Majors and a Minor.
All right. I want to go to a question on how we got started. I know how you got your job as a ballpark organist, but Jeremiah, for people who don't know, tell us about the experience and how you became the youngest public address announcer in the major leagues.
Yeah, so my story starts at a pretty young age. What actually the funny part is, this is not the profession I initially wanted to get into. As a kid, me and my mom traveled a lot, and so I was always on a plane, always at an airport. And so my earliest dream job was to be an airline pilot.
Oh, huh.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, this would be fun. I'd get to travel the world and all that stuff. And so that's something I took into consideration growing up. And then, announcing kind of just was something that was in the background of like, as the sports fan that I am, I went to Wrigley, I went to the United Center, Soldier Field. I would hear these voices in the background and found myself kind of mimicking them and trying to like do my best impression of them while I was at the game. And so, I many times I'd be at Wrigley with my scorecard and I'd have the lineup there, and I'd try to, funny enough, pretend to be my predecessor and try to announce like them and pretend I was announcing the game. But I was just really doing that for fun and uh, some giggles and stuff like that. But it's something that I did consider too. The older I got, like eighth grade and actually freshman year of high school, when you have to start kind of considering options. And so I found out that a public address announcer was a real person and
Yeah.
a real job. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, someone is really the voice of all of this, and it seemed like very powerful and very cool of an idea and a job and a concept. So I was like, I'll keep that in mind. And then the really where it really started is the opportunity presented itself in my high school to be the homeroom announcer or the announcer of the school during homeroom announcements.
Oh, okay.
That usually was for someone that was the senior class president. It just so happened my sophomore year, that senior class president said something he shouldn't have said
Oh.
on the intercom and lost all his privileges.
All right.
So
There's your opportunity.
the opportunity came about, and I like swooped in and I said, hey, I believe I have a good voice and this is something I want to try, and I want to see if I can get better at it. And they said, yeah, sure, why not? And so the next day I came into the office, they gave me the script and the rundown, and the bell rang, and that was my cue to go. And that's the first time I've ever touched the microphone and turned it on. And it was a cool experience, but I was definitely not that great at it at the time. But when I walked out of my first session, they're like, "My God, you have a great voice. That was you." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, you could keep this to graduation." And so,
Wow.
yeah, so they're like, "Yeah, here you go. So here's the keys." And so I kind of ran with that, and I obviously had trials and tribulations each time I would go down there and talk. And sometimes I would have good days and sometimes I'd have bad days. And it was all, I think, a good learning experience of like, oh, how do I prep these scripts? Because, a lot of the scripts were written by teachers. And then you'll
Sure.
quickly realize
Yeah.
that teachers aren't good at writing either.
Okay.
And then so you'll stumble across an announcement, but it's not your fault. It's just that it wasn't written well. And so I learned that sometimes things aren't going to be written well. So you should proofread before you start talking.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so now I check and make sure that it makes legit sense
Mhm.
when I read it, and just English in general, right? And so I learned that skill set, and then I took it further upon myself to build my skill sets in sports. And I realized that there was no public address announcer for basketball games.
No.
And now I am a tall person. I am 6'5". I did play varsity basketball. So that's really the only team that I didn't do. There were a couple games where I knew I wasn't going to play, so I did do those. But for the most part, I didn't do boys varsity. So I was doing boys JV, girls JV, and girls varsity. My junior year of high school, the referee came up to me. It was a girls JV varsity game. At halftime, he was like, "I feel like I'm at a Bulls game.
Whoa,
your voice is amazing."
That's cool.
And so we exchanged information. He said, "I work at UIC in their athletic department. We should get you in over there. They're always looking for people." And so that was kind of really the momentum shift for me, where it was like, this is a huge opportunity that can really help me. And so I took it up. I just connected with their people, and lo and behold, here's a 16-year-old announcing a Division I baseball game for the UIC
Wow,
Flames.
that's cool.
And so that was really the selling point right there. And so that's kind of when I shifted gears, and I was like, I'm going to see where this broadcasting stuff goes.
Sure.
And I ditched the aviation stuff. So, and so then I basically did that for as long as I could. Obviously made picking a college very easy.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
I'm already at UIC doing what I want to do. So I applied for UIC and got in. And so once my freshman year started, I lived in the athletics department. I was there all the time and just learned and soaked up as much knowledge as I could. And then you meet new people, and then they connect you to other places. And then in that time, some teams, they would post listings, and they say, "Hey, we're looking for a public address announcer." And so I tried out for a few teams, and didn't make the cut, or I'd get somewhere with them, but then not further. And so those were all a good learning experience, but at that time, also devastating too. So then COVID happened, and then that was really disappointing, because then it's like, oh well, I made this decision to go into sports, but now here I am sitting on my couch because there's no one to talk to. I'm not getting paid. This is absolutely terrible, right? And so I'm like, even, and then you start to second guess yourself. You're like, well, I'm like, did I make the right decision? Even though flight travel was limited, there's still planes flying, right?
Yeah, a lot less.
They were a lot less, but there's still something for people to do. I went like a whole maybe 7, 8, 9 months without touching a microphone.
Wow.
So that was very brutal. And so, but I think a testament to my strength as well too, to keep going, because I could have easily rolled over and quit and did something else, or maybe go back to aviation or whatever. So I just said, you know what? This is the path I chose. I think I'm really good at it. I can write it out and see where it goes, and just got to be patient, especially when you realize that you really shouldn't be too stressed out at 20, 21 years old. You should just kind of, embrace the hardships no matter what they are, even if they are a world pandemic.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I did. And sure enough, I remember vividly, March 2021, the previous voice of Wrigley Field had made a post on Twitter and said, "Hey, I will not be continuing my tenure with the Cubs. I'm going to go pursue another avenue." And that's when I was like, yes. And so I was like, all right, well, this is my chance to really go for something I really want, especially me being a very huge baseball fan, a very huge Cubs fan at that. I was like, this is the one that I need, right? So that's what I did. And funny enough, I was still in school. I was still at UIC. So I was ending my first senior semester when that happened. So I was on spring break when the job opened up, the Cubs job. And a friend of mine had seen it, and I appreciate him because I was able to get in there early. And he's like, hey, the Cubs job opened up, and I was in my hotel room in Miami, so I was like, drop everything. I grabbed the random lineup off of Twitter, recorded that, sent it in.
Nice.
And then I probably heard back about a couple weeks later, and they gave me some PDF with some scripts to read and record and send back, and then I did that. And then about a week later, I hopped on a call with someone that we work with now and talked to them for a bit. And then I felt really good about that, and that was really fun. And then I was like, oh yeah, no, this is great. This is going way too good. Something's like really there, and I felt a really good energy there. And maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks later, they invited me to come to Wrigley to do a live audition, and so that was really fun because what I know is if you really get to that point in that position, you're near the end. You're basically a finalist at that point. So I was like, oh man, all I really have to do is just focus as best as I can on this live audition, and I should be good. And so I think going into it confidently too helped. And I that's what I did. It was like a 30-minute session. I walked in, and they brought me up to the booth, and that's where I would meet now my boss, who is one of the game directors there, and it was just a whole bunch of reading for 30 minutes, but it was really great, and that was the first time I ever heard my voice on the Wrigley mic, and even leaving that session knowing that I did a good job, I was like, if that's where the whole journey ends, like I'm good with just experiencing that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And so yeah, I would say maybe about another, like this is all like within a month and a half time frame, but like I'm jumping like a week or two at a time. So I would say that final point after the live audition was to hop on a call with them, and that's where they broke the news, and they said, hey, we like what we heard, and we want you to be the next voice of Wrigley Field. Yeah. So I was like, yes.
Well, I
did it.
The exciting part, the really exciting part, and listen, the first African American and youngest to a public address announcer for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah.
You, my friend, are part of history.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. Let's pop that up real quick, Nico. You are, that's something to be seriously proud of, man.
Yeah.
We're proud of you. That's for sure. Fantastic. And so now that you've been doing this for a minute, let me ask you, what does it feel like to be part of that organization? You're a baseball guy, right? Mm-hmm. So
absolutely,
this is like the puzzle piece, right? That fits perfectly into the puzzle. How does that feel for you?
It's surreal. You've spent, I've spent lots of years going to that park as just a fan, and being excited to just be there and watch the Cubs and be a part of the Wrigley experience, and enjoying spectating. But now, that same organization comes to you and say, hey, we trust you with the microphone in front of 40,000 fans. You're going to set the tone now every time fans come to Wrigley Field.
That's awesome.
Is insane. And also to get it at 21, which was very much unheard of in that field.
Yes,
because that's not something that's given to young guys off the bat, So that was really, really cool. Like to get it at 21 at a young age, and then also, I guess being the first African American in that position was also a cool in terms of like, it doesn't matter what race you are, so that was just all kind of a whirlwind when that first happened, when I first got there. And May 17, 2021 was my first game. And the rest is history. But it's cool. And because of those things, the National Baseball Hall of Fame reached out and said, hey, we're going to take your microphone and put it in our museum. And
wow.
So when you have the hall calling you, that's major right there. So that itself was mind blowing, right? Because now you're technically
Part of it.
part of the entire game itself. And then the hall actually had me back last year to do this like black baseball celebration, and it was a bunch of just, well-known African American players that used to be in the league. And so, you're here you are at Doubleday Field calling like, CC Sabathia, just to name a few. So that was a very, very cool experience. And Tony Gwynn Jr., Dexter Fowler, and that was really cool. So this whole experience has been great. And obviously, now I'm a little bit older, but like, to still be a young guy, to be at the helm of the mic of the second oldest ballpark in Major League history is cool. And each year I feel like, I get that recognition, and there's always someone new that learns. Is like, we just found out that you're the voice, but we've been listening to you, and you have an amazing voice. So it's awesome. I enjoy it. It's been an amazing ride so far.
Well, people who may not know you, they know the voice.
They know the voice,
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember going back to the 60s. You remember one of the public address announcer back then, and I'm sure you'll recognize it, but he would always start, attention, please. Here are your starting lineups for your Chicago Cubs. And he'd tell you to get your scorecards ready, because actually a lot of people used scorecards back then.
Yeah. But I feel like it's a dying art, unfortunately. But I think, this new generation, a lot of them might not even know what a scorecard is or looks like, right? That's I was fortunate that because my mom liked baseball, she got me into scoring, which was nice. And I don't want to blame people, but I feel like at some point it stopped getting passed down. And then obviously with technology, growing, I feel like now, and I sometimes find myself guilty of this, of being distracted during the game, where you're not locked in and just watching the art of the game play out, but you have to be on Twitter and see who's tweeting about the last play. And so you end up getting a lot more distracted now than really more focused.
You're on the 360. As a spectator, you're seeing it as one way, but now you have to announce it. Now you have to see what's happening before and after it, and staying on top of your game. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. So I'm sure there's a bit of a challenge to that, as much as it is fun and different to what you're used to. So that brings us to another trivia question, guys.
Here we go.
Here we go. What is the most amount of games the Chicago Cubs won in a single season?
116.
Anybody else?
115.
Oh, sure.
You're gonna go closest wins.
Is this a 162 season?
Sure. Ish. I'll tell you what. I'll throw them out there. We got 110, 112, 116, or 118. 110, 112, 116, or 118.
I feel like I've seen 116 before somewhere, so I'm gonna go with 116 as well.
We got 2 at 116. You are correct.
Well done.
Well, 115 doesn't take but yeah. So we're gonna split that point, right?
What year was it?
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I'm not even gonna try to attempt that.
What year was it, Tim?
06?
For the full point?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to fact check that, Nick. 1906.
Wow.
Good job.
Look at that.
Let's see.
I was at half of those games.
Right. Yeah.
And they went on to lose the World Series to Chicago White Sox.
No. 1906?
Yep.
No.
Actually,
They won in 06.
That's what the interweb's telling me.
What?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yep.
No, we won
It
in
says,
06, 07, and 08.
Chicago Cubs won remarkable 116
we
games.
won
1906.
in 1907, 1908, and 2016. Those are our championships.
Oh, didn't we won 3 in the 1900s? In the
No.
early,
We
no,
won 2. Just 1907 and 1908.
we lost in 1906, and I'm just finding out.
Yeah, we lost.
Your whole life, you've been
Well,
laboring under
You
this
were like
misconception.
27. So I don't know.
Half your life, you've been laboring under
I've
this
been laboring
misconception.
Good Lord. What do you
Was
call
it
that?
was White Sox, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
it was. Well, good answers. I mean, good answers though. Listen, you guys know way more than I do about it. I'm a Southside Italian kid. I don't even watch baseball, so I should be somewhat of a Cubs fan because my entire family are Cub fans. My wife's family, a huge Cub fans.
No, it's never too late.
No,
Yeah.
it's just about time to watch baseball. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have a life.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally understand.
That's the only reason for this. Matter of fact, my father-in-law and I were conversating. His mother was such a Cubs fan that she would bring homemade rapini to the games. And then people that were normals were always expecting it.
Nice.
So that's how much they were, buried into Wrigley Field. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, I've got another question about international baseball, but first, a message from our sponsor, because we're here because of Piano Tunes Music Company, and I hear it's a pretty good music store.
Well, Piano Trends, listen, if you're looking for musical lessons, if you're looking for instruments, if you're looking for pianos, they do it all. They carry it all. You got a broken instrument? No problem. Bring it on in. We'll get it serviced. We'll get it back out to you. Are your kids starting next year in band? You looking to lease to own options? Piano Trends can do it. Tim, how do they get a hold of you?
You get a hold of us at the website, pianotrends.com, or you can do the old-fashioned way and give us a call at 815-47-PIANO. Real easy.
Awesome. Pianotrends.com, folks. Check them out.
And if you come by the store soon, you can also see our Cubby Blue pianos,
Ooh, that's
which
right.
appear on Lifting Spirits
Interesting.
almost every day.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I
And
walked
we've
into the store
did you see
prior
it?
to this, so I did see it.
Yeah.
It looks really nice.
You
If
play
you
a
hang
musical
out-
instrument, Jeremiah?
You know what? What's funny is I actually, at some point in my life, did know how to play the piano very well.
Really?
But then I kind of like strayed away from it. And so I'm now not as great as I used to be. But I am if I had to pick an instrument that I can learn again quickly, it'd be piano. Yeah. And now that I'm at Wrigley and I have access to an organ,
You do have access.
I do sometimes find myself learning skills or trying to brush back on my skills.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a piano, I know a guy. And if you buy one, you get one at full price. That's pretty much how that works. No, that's awesome that you actually, you should get back into it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back into it. I don't have a piano at home.
Uh-oh.
This might be a sign to get one.
Ding, 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 ding.
But when work has an organ right behind you and you have access to it sometimes, then I try to use whatever time I can to learn as anything that I can on there.
What kind of stuff do you play on there?
I try not to change your guys' settings too much. I obviously don't want to, mess that up. But I just turn it on and I'll just kind of.
Well, we can change stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
I try to like play like certain songs that are like relevant that I think have a good piano sound to it, and then I'll try to like figure out what the keys are.
So you're like playing by ear.
No. I'll have the organ on and then I'll like pull up like a YouTube tutorial
cool.
and then I'll watch the tutorial.
Oh, I love YouTube tutorials.
Yeah. So that's sometimes I'll do that. Yeah.
I was watching one the other day on the way into the ballpark because I heard that TI song, What You Know.
Oh,
and so I was like, oh, this would be good for a walk-up song. So then I like looked it up and there's a YouTube tutorial and he lays out all the synth parts.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think YouTube tutorials are great. That's one of the beauties of the internet is that we have access to visual and these type of teachings.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much a visual learner. So I can't read sheet music, but if you show me what keys they are and how to progress the chords, I'll learn that way quicker. So.
Now I have a question about the actual organ at the stadium.
Yeah.
So, and this might be a silly question. So when you play the organ there, is there a switch to where it goes out to the stadium, or is that done by Mike internally that goes externally?
Yeah, so they don't let me control that switch. That is the DJ's job. So I'm plugged into their mixer.
Okay.
And so they'll just, put me up when it's time for me to play, or like sometimes the stretch singer, the guest conductor will come into the booth and they want to practice beforehand. So then the DJ will bring me down so no one can hear what's going on. But the organ is still making sound.
So you can still listen inside.
Yeah.
Where you're
yeah.
at. Got you. Okay. It's just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Some places like, you go back to the medieval organs, right? The giant pipe organ.
Oh, right.
And so there's no control.
Right. Yeah.
The whole world's listening to you.
Exactly. Yeah. It's easier with an electronic organ to control it, definitely. And like they can probably before the game, especially, I think people can sometimes hear me practicing outside the window,
Oh, okay.
But because there's so many fewer people there, but during a game when it fills up, people are starting to hear.
Noise.
Yeah.
Sure. It's blocking you.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. When I played, there was none of that. If you played the organ, everybody heard it.
Oh, wow.
No on-off.
So how do you practice?
You don't.
Oh,
You go and wing
You
it.
don't. You wing it. Yeah.
That's minor league stuff right there.
That's right. You just wing it.
Welcome to two majors and a minor, where we're not going to talk about how you get kicked out, because you do.
I did. I got kicked out of a baseball game once playing the organ.
Really?
There was a close play at home plate. It was the 9th inning, and it was for the Quad City Cubs.
Okay.
And I had a much better view from the organ booth than the umpire had, standing right over home plate. Clearly he was wrong. He called our guys out, and he was clearly safe. And I played 3 blind mice.
Oh, the classic way. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll definitely do it.
Time-honored tradition. Yeah.
He's a rebel. He's like, oh, here we go. Getting kicked out today. I love it.
But I think I'm one of only 2 organists that have ever had that happen.
Huh?
There was a gentleman in Kansas City that I read in a newspaper article once got thrown out of a ball game.
Okay.
Similar.
Same song.
Same song.
Yeah.
So don't ever play that.
No.
Gee, I wonder why they don't like that.
I don't know.
We're gonna do we're wrapping up here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have an announcement to the seventh inning stretch. Is that correct today?
Oh.
All right.
I got one more thing I want to talk about though.
All right.
I hinted at it already.
Oh, right.
Jeremiah went to Japan and traveled with the
did.
Cubs when they played the Dodgers over there. And
won't
talk about the games, but tell.
Yeah, so I didn't travel with the team exactly, but on my own dime I went, and I was lucky enough to get 2 tickets to both games. So me and my mom were fortunate enough to be the lucky few that got to see the Cubs in Tokyo this year, which was very, very awesome. I will have to say, if Tokyo or Japan is on your bucket list, I would expedite trying to get there as soon as possible. I found that to be one of the most amazing trips I've ever experienced.
Okay.
I think just you guys know the term culture shock, right?
Oh yeah.
I've been to London and Europe, and sometimes you might get that there, but not to the degree of how I experienced it in Japan. Like, you literally land, and that's literally an instant shock. Like, you're there, it's already different. Like, I'm living in the city, I have to use CTA a lot. So, in terms of public transportation, I'm always used to 30 smelly cars or stations and a very late schedule. And, sometimes you're delayed for a long time, but none of that happens there in Tokyo. The Tokyo metro system was fantastic, very clean. Never really smelled. It was prompt, and even though it does get packed like Chicago and New York does, the efficiency is insane. Like, they're very much on time. If it says it's coming at 12:52, it's coming at 12:51. And
what's the secret sauce to that?
I would like to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know that too. But then in general, though, like the customs out there is much different. Like there's garbage cans here on every block, but there's trash on every block. But then you go there and there's no trash cans on public sidewalks, but yet there's no trash on the ground. So it doesn't make sense. But it was so clean. Like I maybe only saw trash. I went to Tokyo and Japan for 10 days. I might have seen trash only 2 times.
Huh.
That whole trip on the ground.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Robots. It's gotta be robots.
Did you know
Something, yeah. I don't know what it is. It's
Midnight
insane.
robots.
Did you know any Japanese going out there?
No, very, very slim. Just the, arigato gozaimasu is like, thank you very much.
Okay.
Konnichiwa. Hi.
Also,
That's probably it.
But you were able to get around okay?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Tokyo, I wouldn't say that it's like too difficult to get around. I mean, there's obviously a good amount of people there that don't know English that well, so that might be a challenge, but I feel like you can kind of communicate in some way, even if it's just like, hey, pointing to this, or
Okay. Yeah.
so I mean, knowing more of the language would have been helpful for sure. But if you know the basics, you can definitely survive off of that.
Oh, that's cool.
Google's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Google Translator was
Yeah.
very much helpful too. I definitely had to use that a couple times for some people. But yeah, no, it was amazing. I mean, I took the bullet train to Kyoto for 1 day, so I got to ride that, and that was an amazing experience
Cool.
too. The world's fastest train.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think at one point maybe we touched like 200 miles
Whoa.
per hour. Like we were coasting, but it's a nice, comfortable ride. And then I got to experience Kyoto, which is less commercial than Tokyo, so you're not going to be hit with the the blinding lights of a city, and you have more of the original shrines and temples and just nature and all that stuff. So that was a really cool experience. And then the food itself was amazing. The ramen, the tonkatsu. Yeah, it was great. Like even just the McDonald's tasted differently. So that was cool. But the games itself, despite the Cubs not winning the 2 games, just to be there at the Tokyo Dome and experience baseball, I will say from a baseball perspective, it was slightly different because most of the tickets given for that series were to locals.
Mhm.
So the way their fans is much different. Apparently, the way they treat visiting fans is not like how we treat visiting fans. You go to a game there and you still treat the visiting team with respect. So you're not like we get a visiting team and we boo, we yell, we curse them out, right? Over there, it's just quiet.
Huh.
It's just quiet. No cheer, no talk. It's like almost silent.
Honor is very big.
Yeah, it was so silent where when the visiting team came up to the plate, you know how when the pitcher's pitching 100 and it hits the catcher's glove and that pop echoes the entire dome.
The eerie.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was like super quiet, like if you were at like a library watching. Like it was insane. But then when the home team comes to the plate, it's like a college football game. Drums are banging, horns are whistling, everyone's cheering. So it's wild how the energy changes every half inning. It's insane.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. I know there's a lot of honor there.
Absolutely.
Regardless, your competitor, you're honoring them. But that's almost a little dishonorable. I would rather have somebody be like, "Ooh," something chanting versus dead silence.
I honestly feel like the silence is more distracting than the booing. Yeah,
it's strategic.
Get on their nerves.
Yeah.
It's very strategic.
But then again, I'm very much accustomed to the American way of being a fan.
That's
Do you think the Japanese people as a whole, were they more for the Cubs or for the Dodgers?
Oh yeah, Dodgers for sure. I mean, the Shohei,
because of
the Shohei
Shohei.
effect is real. I mean, everyone, as far as I could see, had a Dodgers shirt, jersey, hat, something of that nature on. There were Cubs fans out there, but it was very slim. And you have some of those people that give respect to Seiya and Shota. But yeah, there's just when you have a guy like Shohei Ohtani, that's I would say maybe this generation's version of Michael Jordan in the baseball world. Like,
no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, there's no fans like Cub fans.
Of course.
They're either super intense or just happy. There's no gray area. I went to a Diamondbacks game in Arizona when the Cubs came out, and you could tell the Cubs fan a mile away. Half their face is painted blue, and they're running around screaming with their heads off. And I was living in Arizona at the time, and a couple of the Diamondback side fans were just like, every year with the Cubbies. They expect it. Right?
Yeah.
So there are to me, Cub fans are diehard. Hey, we win together, we lose together, regardless. We're always going to be fans, and that's huge. There's not a lot of trade-offs. We're like, wow, the Cubs are losing all the time.
And I think that's what makes us the best fan base in baseball.
I agree.
Because you look at all other stadiums and how they get their fans going with like video board prompts or sound effects that progressively get louder. But no, at Wrigley, the game speaks itself, and the fans just understand.
Yeah.
And we could be, runners in scoring position with 2 outs, and someone's at the plate, and the fans automatically know to just get up and get loud. And we don't throw those graphics up. We don't tell fans to get loud,
Which they do at other ballparks.
No,
Right.
they promote it themselves, man.
Yeah.
Let it be known.
Yeah, and like you could be down 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th, and they'll stand for each batter. So that's just that shows how we are.
Well, Chicagoans in themselves, even outside of baseball, we're loud and proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of what it is, and if it's the Bulls, right? Listen, we've torn down empires for a winning game. It's crazy here when it comes to sports competition and the pride of your team. But then the Cubs fans stand out a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And that shows true pride in what you care for, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So
all true story. I believe it's time. We're between innings of the 7th inning.
That's right.
All right.
So we're going to go ahead and pause that.
Oh, yeah. All right. Today's guest conductors for Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the 2 majors and a minor podcast. All right. Cubs fans, whether you're listening and watching at home or on the road, it doesn't matter if you're a Cubs fan. Let's sing it loud. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back, for it's rooting for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Let's get started.